Deep within each of us lies the potential to heal the mother wound and access the well of feminine energy that has been covered over by layers of pain and conditioning. It's time to nurture the inner flame of the divine feminine within you and shed all that binds you from embodying your full, sacred, life-giving power regardless of your gender or parental status. This podcast episode is going to explore healing the mother wound if you have a mother, if you are a mother, if you wanted to be a mother and didn't become a mother, if you are a woman that did not want to become a mother, or if you have women around you. Let's explore healing the mother wound, restoring the balance between feminine and masculine forces so you can unleash the beauty, power, magic, and love within. You're listening to or watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show, where we share psychic guidance and healing for embodied spiritual awakening. I'm Christelle Arcucci, and I'm on a mission to support spiritual practitioners to access your intuition, unlock your psychic gifts, and live your purpose. Thank you to our listeners all over the world, and a special shout out to our listeners in Medellin, Colombia. You can schedule sessions in Sedona or virtual psychic readings, angel readings, soul contract sessions, Akashic Recode hypnosis sessions, Reiki, life coaching, and more at SedonaSoulSisters.com. Each breath you take aligned with love repairs the healing web on planet Earth. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to look at a variety of aspects or perspectives, experiences of the mother wound. We're going to start with the relationship or lack of relationship with our own mother, whether she is living or not living. An essential component that is so important to remember is you can do this work on your own. She doesn't have to participate in any way. This work is incredibly powerful if you do the work within yourself and what I would call soul-to-soul healing work or soul contract healing work. In many recent episodes, I've mentioned the trauma triangle, or what I call VPR for short, victim, perpetrator, or rescuer. On a fundamental level, healing the mother wound, to me, the most important thing is learning to parent, mother and father, your own inner child, so that you can shift in whatever relationship you have with your mother. So this is part of where developing your own relationship with your own nurturing aspects of how you tend to yourself. And in the last episode, I talked a lot about being able to reparent ourselves and to become the parent for our own wounded inner parts so that we can liberate ourselves from needing or wanting our mothers, in this case, to be someone or do something that they're not already or stop doing something that they are. It gives us that space when we focus on learning to reparent, be present for, give unconditional love to our own inner wounded parts. That is an essential principle of the work that we're working with today. Is first, all of healing the mother wound is inner work. And in healing the relationship with our own mother, it's becoming the mother to ourselves and our wounded parts, especially, that we always wanted, because then it heals the unmet needs, which are a massive piece of conflict in any relationship. One of the most powerful healing practices I have found that I have used specifically in my own work in healing the mother wound is the Hawaiian prayer called Ho'oponopono. My understanding of it is 4 lines. The lines can be used in any order. The order I like to use them is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. in my own relationship with my mother, the wounded child within me got so activated when I started practicing this. I'm sorry. Why am I sorry? She's the parent. She's the one. Please forgive me. What? You're the one that should ask for forgiveness and apologize, not me. I'm the child. You're the parent. So that was highlighting the wounded child within me that was deeply hurt and had attachment to my mother doing something in order to allow me healing. So this way of working to heal the mother wound or heal any relationship conflicts with anybody is first starting within. And for me, like I said, the Ho'oponopono prayer created so much shift for me that I was able to pull my energy back in, to step off of the trauma triangle so that I could be the mother to my inner wounded child that was screaming for attention and love and care and for her needs to be met. So this practice helped me to do that, to start tending to my own inner child so that I wasn't dependent upon my mother showing up in a certain way in my healing. And to me, it's very important that there is space. Like my initial reaction of being angry and hurt is important for me to express it, just like I did to myself in my own space, in my journal, or on a walk in nature, wherever it is for you, for me to say the words, to feel the hurt. But again, I'm not saying this to my mother. This work of reparenting myself is work that I'm doing on my own to liberate myself from needing my mother, in this case, to be or do something different than she already does. Even if you have a great relationship with your mother, this is why I recommend you start with the healing work. You come into a place of power in stepping off the trauma triangle, the victim, perpetrator, rescuer, what I call VPR for short. You're able to step off the trauma triangle to meet your needs of your wounded parts with your wise inner feminine, your wise inner masculine, which we'll do an episode next month about healing the father wound. But for now, we're looking at how I am in relationship with my own inner feminine principle, how I am looking at my own wounded parts and meeting the needs within myself, because that anchors me in the present moment of what is happening. One of the challenges that I see so often with clients is they get stuck in a loop of needing to be right or needing to change the past or needing to continue to tell the painful stories from the past. But this way pulls your power into the present moment to look at what unmet needs are happening right here, right now, so that I can anchor myself in the present to meet my own needs, to tend to my inner parts so that I am in a healthier, more empowered place, that my wounded parts can transition to the wisdom aspects of my wise inner child, my wise inner feminine, my wise inner masculine. This is fundamental to healing your relationship with your mother. And it's totally possible if she is no longer in your life, she is no longer alive, or she is in your life, starting within, accessing the inner mother principle, the inner healthy, wise mother principle within, so that that aspect of me can mother the unmet needs within me, which transforms my relationship with my mother or women in power in general in my life, which is beneficial and helpful for anyone. So this episode in particular is not going to focus on healing the mother wound in a way that is in relationship, having conversations with your mother. There are other resources out there and available. Today, I am focusing on all of the inner work to heal the relationship with our own mother, heal the mother wound if you are a mother, heal the mother wound if you wanted to become a mother and didn't, for whatever reason, and also for women who never wanted to be a mother to navigate the challenges that arise in our culture. And while this work is not focused on having conversations with your mother or your children when we get to those aspects, if you are a mother, it is so important to have healthy boundaries with the inner aspects. The wounded child can appear to be the victim on the trauma triangle, but the victim can quickly flip into being the perpetrator. And this aspect is important that for me, as the one reparenting my wounded inner child, just like if I was parenting a human child, the wounded child doesn't just get whatever it wants. It's like a 2-year-old saying they want to stay up till midnight and only eat donuts and sleep in the driveway. There is healthy boundaries that need to be implemented in this relationship, and reparenting your own inner wounded child and learning what that is for you. But having healthy boundaries, yet also having space to express the unmet needs. Like when I shared about when I first started doing Ho'oponopono, the part of me that was angry and hurt and upset, and I wanted her to do something different. It's important to have that space to speak it to yourself in your own space, to journal about it. I really think the power of speaking it out loud, even to yourself, is so incredibly powerful to move the energy, to give space for the wounded inner child to say things that it may have never had the chance to say. Yet, the reparenting aspect of it is so important that just like in being a real parent, the child doesn't get whatever it wants. There are boundaries and healthy parameters that the parent sets up. And that is true when we're doing our own inner reparenting work for the wounded child. And now moving into the aspects of healing the mother wound in being a mother, which to me, this information is so valuable for all of us who know mothers, who have mothers. And of course, it is beneficial for women who are mothers, for all of us to have compassion for the ways in which an unhealthy aspect of mothering has really been glorified in our culture, of this entirely self-sacrificing mother, which there are elements in parenting, obviously, that does require sacrifice. Yet there is a way in our culture that this level of self-sacrifice, it leaves no room for the woman to be a woman that tends to her own needs, or to be also a wife, and to be a career woman, and to be many other things. That it's like she is only the mother and she is meant to self-sacrifice everything for her children, which to me is not healthy. And it is not sustainable and leads to massive burnout. So it's important to recognize that. If you are a mother, please hold yourself with kindness and compassion, not to be hard on yourself for having this challenge, because it is part of the cultural expectation. And it's like this whole shame and mom guilt thing is like, if you don't feel those things, there's something wrong with you, which is important to recognize that it's true and then decide how you want to relate to it. With this aspect of it, I like to focus on timeline work. Let's say that the mom guilt is one timeline that is pushed on women and so pushed on moms in so many ways. So there's this mom guilt timeline. Like if you don't feel bad for taking care of yourself, for working out, for sleeping in, for wanting time away from your children, whatever, these things that are actually a healthy expression of being a woman and a mother, we'll call that the mom guilt timeline. Then we have the wise mother who creates healthy boundaries, who takes time for herself, who decides that mom guilt isn't beneficial. So we're looking at these two timelines, and it takes practice to move off of the timeline of the burnout of mom guilt it is very real. It is important to just be gentle with yourself when you notice yourself doing that, but to say to yourself, do I want to continue to reinforce this habit of feeling mom guilt? Or do I want to stay on this timeline of mom guilt being my reality, of burnout being expected? Or do I want to notice I'm doing it any moment, take a deep breath, and redirect my energy to discovering what the wise and healthy expression of the mother is for me? I personally think there are lots of ways to be a great mother. There isn't a one size fits all. It's perfect for everyone. I think mothering is incredibly challenging, which is why I personally didn't want to do it. So I hold mothering as it is an incredibly demanding choice. And yes, there are beautiful aspects of it, which is why so many women become mothers. It is that recognition of in any moment as being able to pause and to choose to develop new habits to say, I'm not going to go on this burnout mom guilt timeline. I recognize I'm on it. I'm going to get off the train and I'm going to get on a different train to discover what the wise, healthy expression of the mother is for me. And that's an ongoing practice. So many of my clients are mothers, so I've worked on healing the mother wound with many of them. And one of the things to me is self-forgiveness and not expecting yourself to do it perfectly. So this practice of Ho'oponopono, self-forgiveness, to me is so important, and to recognize it is impossible to mother perfectly. It's literally impossible. Being able to acknowledge the things that are most important to you, know how to get yourself back on track, or to take time for yourself, or whatever the things are that help move you off the burnout, mom guilt timeline that isn't more guilt and shame and being mean to yourself or being hard on yourself for having the very real struggle of being burned out. So this practice of taking a deep breath and acknowledging the aspects that you love about your mothering. One of the challenges of having a human brain, if somebody says something negative or criticism, our brain is so much more likely to hold on to that. Like if there's 10 things that are said, there's one bad thing and 9 positive things. Our brain will disregard the 9 things and focus on the one. And that is so important to recognize in healing the mother wound, in being a mother, is recognizing all of the things that you are doing that are beautiful. And I really encourage you to work with other mothers that are close to you and supporting each other to learn to acknowledge what is going well, what you are doing that is beautiful and powerful and an incredible gift to your children. So it isn't like I snapped at my kid and therefore I'm the worst mother in the world. It is, I snapped at my kid and I want to do that differently next time. I forgive myself, and I also spent quality time with my children. I made lunches for them. All the things. Acknowledge the ways that you want to improve, but don't hold yourself to an impossible standard. Be on your own team, as I like to say, so that you are in the practice of getting on the timeline of the wisdom of the healthy mother is acknowledging the beautiful things that you are offering, noticing the things that you would like to do differently, but not falling into the self-attack of the things that aren't going perfectly are the only thing that you keep repeating to yourself. For women who wanted to become mothers and didn't or couldn't for whatever reason, there is a particular flavor of the mother wound that is important to acknowledge. And similar to when I just spoke about the timeline work, it is important to acknowledge the pain, the loss, the sadness, the grief, whatever challenging emotions arise out of, I always thought I would become a mother, or whatever your personal circumstances are. is acknowledging those things, giving yourself space and time to express them. I think it is incredibly powerful to say it out loud. You can do that in a women's circle. You could do that with a therapist. You could do that on your own. I think even if you're driving on your own and you are speaking to yourself and saying the things that are true for you and being your own witness, there's incredible power in not like shoulding yourself out of having the feelings that you have. Yet, the timeline work of I feel sad, I feel grief, and reinforcing and kind of digging in on those challenging emotions, at a certain point in the process, it's important to be able to turn your attention in your own healing journey to be on the healthy, wise woman timeline instead of I'm a failure because I never became a mother, and reinforcing this wounding inside. So there is this balance of being able to express the emotions, but then at a certain point recognize when continuing to tell the same story, continuing to feel the same emotions, continuing to fuel the mental patterns is going to cause greater pain and stress. So at a certain point, it's like getting off that timeline of the pain once there's been a healthy amount of processing, which is going to be different for each woman, then focusing on what are the aspects that you want to cultivate in your life, and how are you tending to yourself? Like I spoke about in the beginning, parenting yourself, tending to yourself, caring for the people in your life so that you have an outlet for this mothering tendency. For example, I am not a mother, but my work is very nurturing and unconditionally loving by nature. And so there is a healthy place to pour that energy of liking to nurture and love and care for people and listen to people, that there's a healthy expression of that. The last aspect of healing the mother wound I want to speak about is speaking to women like myself who never wanted children. And in my generation and this time in the world, there's more women that have chosen this path than ever before in history. And this is different from the last topic where it was a woman who wanted children but didn't have them for whatever reason. This is like myself. I never wanted children. And there's been the emotional challenges that come up against that. The norm, although it's changing, the norm has been that the life path for a woman is to become a mother and then perhaps a grandmother. And that is what you do. And if you don't do that, there's something bad and wrong about you. The timeline work is incredibly helpful for this one as well. And also to recognize what is my own inner wisdom, what is my own wounding, and what is the cultural pressure that is put on a woman like me, for example, saying that I never wanted children and so there's something wrong with me. Acknowledging the cultural pressure, but then finding and supporting the ways that I can support myself in the choices that I've made, and to not make ourselves wrong for those choices, but to celebrate the choices that we've made and to not feel bad about it. For me, that's definitely an aspect of, for a long time, I felt like I couldn't say I never wanted children. Like I just felt shame about that. Instead of now, I'm more comfortable with that choice of I didn't want to have children, and so I don't have children. The foundation of healing for all four of these different possibilities that we've discussed today, to me, the foundational piece is doing the inner work of embodying and embracing the divine feminine feels like, expresses like in my body, being in my life. And this, of course, relates to the dynamic balance of inner feminine and inner masculine. We will talk about healing the father wound next month, closer to Father's Day. But these aspects of healing our own inner wounded feminine the wounded child, and healing the wounded masculine, so we can move into the wisdom of the inner feminine, the wisdom of the inner child, the wisdom of the masculine, so that we can step off of the trauma triangle of victim, perpetrator, rescuer, and to move into empowered relationships with ourselves first, and then we can work on the transformation of our relationships with others. Thank you for being a part of our community. I'm honored to support your embodied spiritual awakening. The session that I would most recommend at Sedona Soul Sisters for healing the mother wound is a soul contract session, which would be powerful for any of the 4 topics that we talked about today. Soul contracts are the contracts that we have made with the loved ones in our lives, our mothers, our children, our partners. We're talking about healing the mother wound, being able to not only see the soul contracts that we have made, but to also come into the present moment of power to shift those soul contracts, which again, this work is done first within. It's not about renegotiating a soul contract with the person, like with the mother or with your child. It is working on the soul contract in the Akashic records on a soul level. So if you're interested in more information about booking a soul contract session with me, either in Sedona or over the phone, you can visit sedonasoulsisters.com. Leave a review and follow on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, leave a review and follow on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, breathe gently, listen to your guidance, and create miracles.